fierce yells and the clashing of bamboo swords, two swordsmen attack, their movements just a blur to the eye. This is the traditional Japanese martial art of Kendo. The aim of Kendo is not merely to defeat your opponent, it's also a way to train your mind. In the days of samurai warriors, mastery of the sword was a matter of life and death. That unflinching spirit remains undimmed in modern-day Kendo. Fighting with just one arm, this man puts in long hours of training. It will make the difference between victory and defeat. Now Kendo's going global, and practitioners from many countries gather for the World Kendo Championships. On this edition of Begin Japanology, we introduce Kendo, the way of the sword that has kept alive the traditional samurai spirit.
Hello and welcome to Begin Japanology. I'm Peter Barakan. Today I'm visiting a university dojo, which is a gym devoted to the practice of martial arts. In our case today, Kendo. So I'm going to go straight in and take a look. Wow, this is a bit overwhelming. The sound and the reverberation of the floor and everything, it's quite amazing. I'm going to have to shout to be heard, I think, in here. The Kendo Club at this university has about 130 members, male and female. There are lots of clubs like this all over Japan. You'll find them in universities, in schools, in companies, and in towns just all over the country. And people taking part in Kendo, the age range is anything from about 7 to 77. Kendo is a competitive martial art in which the participants try to strike each other with bamboo swords. The roots of Kendo lie in the combat between samurai warriors who are trained to use their swords to cut each other down. But over the years, Kendo developed into a martial art which is as much about mental discipline as it is about actual combat. First of all, let's take a look at what Kendo is all about.
There are currently an estimated 1.6 million Kendo practitioners in Japan. These include both adults and children. Kendo is a one-on-one martial art. Practitioners wear protective equipment modelled after samurai armour and fight with bamboo swords. To win, you must strike your opponent using movements that follow the proper form. Special clothing and protective gear are worn. The basic clothes are a jacket and wide pleated trousers. Kendo bouts are fought barefoot. Over this outfit, protective equipment is worn. The helmet has a rigid metal grille to guard the face. The rest of it is made of thickly padded cloth. A chest protector covers the torso and mid-body. It has a hard central portion traditionally made of lacquered bamboo. The crotch protector is made of flexible fabric so that the legs can move freely. Protective mittens cover the hands and wrists. These are constructed of multiple layers of cloth and leather and are designed to allow the hands to move easily. The weapon used in Kendo is a bamboo sword called a shinai. Modelled after the swords used by samurai warriors, it's a hollow cylinder made of 4 shafts of split bamboo. A binding cord runs the length of the shinai, corresponding to the flat top of a sword blade. The opposite side is the striking edge. Here's a Kendo bout in action. This was the final of the 2008 All Japan Kendo Championships. Usually bouts last for 5 minutes, but in this tournament they are 10 minutes long. One competitor fights as red and the other is white. Landing a perfectly coordinated blow on the opponent is called ippon, and scores 1 point. The first to score 2 points wins the bout. This bout could not be decided in regulation time, so a period of overtime follows. Then, in the 9th minute of overtime. White strikes a brilliant ippon. It's the winning blow. Besides needing speed, fighters must also make the correct movements and loud yells. Ippon points can be scored by hitting various strike zones. First, a blow to the head, a technique called men. To score ippon, the blow must land on the forehead. The second strike zone, known as kote, is the forearm or wrist on either arm. Third is a blow to the trunk, called do. This requires the shinai to be swung down at an angle. Striking either the left or right side scores ippon, but hitting the center doesn't count. The fourth strike zone is the throat, or tsuki. This requires a thrust to the center of the throat. It's a small target and potentially dangerous, so this is an advanced technique. But just making contact with the sword on one of these areas is not enough to score ippon. There are 3 conditions that must be met for ippon to be awarded. These are known as ki-ken-tai, or spirit, swordsmanship and stance. Ki means spirit or will. This refers to a blow struck with spirit, indicated by the fierce shout as the blow lands. Next is ken, meaning swordsmanship. To score ippon, the correct part of the shinai must strike the target, close to the tip and using the leading edge opposite the binding cord. Viewed again in slow motion, you can see that the tip of the shinai lands squarely on the target. Third is tai, or body, having the correct stance. At the moment the blow is landed, the leg should be open in a long stride with the arms extended. Having landed the blow, the attacker does not relax. Full concentration is essential at all times, so the fighter must assume the correct stance. Ki, ken, tai, spirit, swordsmanship and stance. In Kendo, each of these 3 must be right for ippon to be awarded. It's not just physical strength that's valued in Kendo, but also mental strength. There's one kind of Kendo training that's called tachikiri, in which a combatant fights a series of opponents continuously for 3 hours. Because there's almost no time to rest, this is a highly grueling form of practice. It pushes people to their limits, but imbues them with deep mental strength. On this occasion, 3 men and a woman are undergoing this intensive training. Sometimes they fall down or develop leg cramps, but all 4 make it through the full 3-hour session. I'm overwhelmed that I was able to stay on my feet until the very end. This was the best experience I've ever had in Kendo. Kendo is a sport in which the objective is not simply to defeat your opponent, but also to train your own mind.
Well, you've seen the basic techniques now, but there are some more advanced techniques as well. And these students are going to show us one of those now. They're going to give us a demonstration of a technique called Men Kaishi Do. Men is the head, Kaishi is to counter, and do is the body or trunk. So this is when one of the fighters is trying to hit the other one's head, and then they deflect that and counter to the body. As you can see, Kendo is a pretty demanding discipline, which is quite natural when you consider that it derives from the combat between samurai warriors whose lives depended on the mastery of these techniques. Of course, there's no actual killing in Kendo, but the mindset is very much kill or be killed. Let's go on now and take a look at how Kendo came about in the first place.
Up to the start of the 17th century, Japan was ravaged by civil war, with regional warlords fighting to expand their power. For the samurai at that time, the way they handled their spears and swords was a matter of life or death. After the Tokugawa shoguns unified Japan and established peace, there were few opportunities for samurai to test their swordsmanship in real combat situations. During this period, master swordsmen appeared who elevated their practice to a higher level. For them, spirit was just as important as technique, and they established a code of ethics that samurai should live by. One of these master swordsmen was Miyamoto Musashi, who lived in the 16th and 17th centuries. In his youth, Musashi fought more than 60 one-on-one duels and was never defeated. Musashi is also famous for writing the Book of Five Rings, in which he laid out his philosophy not just for fighting but also for living. His words had a profound influence on later generations of swordsmen and the world of Kendo. In daily life, just as on the battlefield, you must never lose your spiritual equilibrium, Musashi wrote. You should cultivate a mentality that allows you to stay alert, whatever the situation, so your spirit remains undisturbed either by tenseness or being too relaxed. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Perseverance in training is essential. Be better today than you were yesterday, and then strive to become better still. Cultivate unwavering self-discipline. Musashi taught the importance of always remaining calm and making efforts to improve yourself every day. The spirit of Musashi and the great swordsman has been passed down through succeeding generations. One man who kept this spirit alive was Moriji Mochida, who came to be known as the supreme swordsman of the 20th century. He continued training in his dojo until he died at the age of 89. This is what he said about the way of the sword. I spent 50 years mastering the basics of Kendo. Once I turned 50, my real training started. I began practicing Kendo with my spirit. When I turned 60, my legs started to get weaker, so I focused on making my spirit more active. After I turned 70, I began training my spirit to remain still. Once the spirit is calm, it becomes a mirror that reflects your opponent's spirit.